Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
So Lance, how have your MacBook Pro keys been for you?
No issues so far, Simon.
That's good. Because unfortunately for all MacBook Pro laptops with either Butterfly 1 or Butterfly 2, some people have experienced issues with their keyboard. And this news and these complaints have kind of spread like wildfire, and Apple have finally sort of taken some action upon it. So if you have the 12-inch MacBook or any of the MacBook Pros from the past couple of years, and you're experiencing, as they quote, sticky keys or keys that are unresponsive, then basically Apple will replace your faulty keys or the entire keyboard, depending how bad it is, at no cost. And if you've ever paid for a repair, then basically, they will give you your money back.
That's good news for anyone that has had issues with these keys. I mean, I've been no problem so far, but it's definitely been fairly widespread issue for a lot of people.
Apparently there was some way of a fix between the MacBook Pro Touch Bar that I've got and then the one that you've got. Like, they actually did supposedly, like, nothing confirmed, but it may have been an issue to do with the metal alloy underneath the key. That was prone to bending and therefore the key getting stuck, and they apparently had replaced that part of it with the Butterfly 2 keyboard in the one that you have.
Okay, yeah, I've also heard that even in my one, the 2017, I think people just find that dust and dirt kind of gets in under the keys fairly easy, and because the keys can't be popped out to be cleaned, you can't actually remove a key. Once stuff gets under there, I think that tends to cause issues for people.
I've had a couple of keys that still worked but felt a bit tight, like I had to press a bit harder. So I managed to, there is full instructions available for this, but I managed to lift up from the top by wedging something in the little gap and lifting up that little bit and then just blowing some air into the top, and then it fixed it for me. So I sort of attended to it before it got too bad. But now that I know this program is here, which also lasts for 4 years, it's a little bit of peace of mind. But unfortunately, I'm located 5 hours away from my closest Apple store, so it still would be a fair bit of inconvenience. Apparently, authorized Apple resellers can do it too. So anyway, I hope it doesn't happen for me. But the thing that people are complaining about is like, okay, well, they brought out this program, but they haven't actually changed the keyboard itself. I am more than confident that whenever a MacBook Pro hardware update comes, which may be later this year, that they're going to do something in the way to address the keyboard issues, physically. Whether it's still Butterfly style, like a Butterfly 3, and it has something to do with a better seal around the key or something to stop stuff getting in, or whether they come up with some sort of compromised keyboard between Butterfly and then the previous style, because so many people are huge fans of the previous style of keyboard. Everyone always harks back to saying the MacBook Air had the greatest feel and all this sort of stuff, and I like the feel of the Butterfly 2, but if this is becoming more of an issue for people, then I'd rather happy customers than people trashing MacBook Pros online. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you think if they bring out a new model and they do keep these old models around, as they tend to do for a few years, do you think they'll change the keyboard on the old models as well?
And by keep the old models, I kind of think that
the current model,
once they update it, they're not going to continue making the previous models.
No,
they'll just the stock will sell out.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's just the Air's been hanging around for so long without barely an update. So, they could add an extra model, although it'd probably be an update to the current lines. So, rather than a new extra model available. So,
Well, speaking of which, there is a Geekbench score floating around there that hints at a new MacBook Pro update. And if this sort of stuff is coming out now, then, hopefully later this year. I know a lot of people have been saying that they've kind of missed the boat in terms of people buying MacBooks and MacBook Pros to tie in with, American school holidays, etc. But, yeah, at least they've got something in place. As I said, I haven't fully experienced the issues that other people have, but I was also a bit surprised when it did start happening. I was like, oh, really? Because I'd had my MacBook Pro for a good year before I'd even had any stickiness or anything occur. So anyway, we're both happy MacBook Pro users, but yeah, if they can... I mean, I just like, updated releases of hardware anyway, so I'm keen on that. If they had a MacBook Pro where they addressed the keyboard in some way, as well as, like a thinner bezel for the screen and that sort of stuff, I'd be fully down for that.
Yeah, I do wish that this replacement program was a bit longer than 4 years, because MacBooks last generally a lot longer than 4 years. They don't go out of date. I mean, you might buy a new one by then, but doesn't mean you're not going to sell it to a family member or something like that. And if they end up having issues with the keys when it's, 4.5, 5 years old, I've got a girl at church that's using a MacBook Pro that's 8, 9 years old and still using it and having no issues. So, if it'd be nice if they made it a bit longer than 4 years, maybe the length that they would expect a Mac to last just in general. So that'd be nice, but it's better than nothing.
I think if the complaint about the length of time was bad enough, they would just quietly extend it to like 6 years or something. But, okay. So Lance and I took the plunge with the iOS 12 public beta. I fully well know that online and on the previous podcast episode, I was very... forward with saying, no, I'm going to wait for the final release. I don't want betas to ruin it or anything. And yeah, I caved hard.
You could not help yourself. As soon as I made a memoji and sent it your way.
Yes.
That was it.
It was all that beard wobble. I was like, I want that for my hair. So, okay. So if you haven't done it already, there's certainly no pressure to do so, but the general consensus from both reviewers as well as Lance and I ourselves, because we're currently running it, is that it's pretty damn solid for a beta. So much so that, I mean, some people say, oh, it's more solid than 11.4. I don't quite agree with that, but it's pretty good. It feels like it's, something that's probably a couple of beta stages away from final release, if you know what I mean. That's the sort of, it's kind of like you've skipped straight ahead to beta 4, like the fourth revision or something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Compared, because I remember you had all those issues with iOS 11 public beta 1 a year ago.
Yeah.
You said you'd installed it and you had all the maps issues and you end up uninstalling it.
Yeah, I think it was, there was some basic functions that was crashing all the time, and then I realized that quite a number of my most well-used apps that weren't Apple apps wouldn't work at all. They would just crash or hang or just not work. And I realized that, I couldn't do months with my phone just, without those apps. So I rolled back pretty quick with that one. But so far with the current one, I think the only app that won't work is my PlayStation app. But PlayStation are dodgy enough with their phone apps. It could just be, I haven't checked whether that's not working on iOS 11 devices as well. But
is that PlayStation app? Is it letterboxed? Like, does it support the iPhone 10 display yet? Because that's always sort of a good indicator as to how much effort people put into apps.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it is upgraded to iPhone 10. Yeah, not letterboxed.
Right, well, that's something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to list off some of our favorite features. I have some suggestions for changes that I'd hope to see. And then, of course, there's a handful of bugs as well. All right. The thing that really drew me to do it and actually take the plunge was the memoji creation. So that was one of the first things I did. I love the creation process. I'm really happy with what mine looks like. The only thing that's odd is the fact that the glass, because I wear glasses, is that the glasses I sign don't have any arms on it. So I hope they do bring arms into it, only because once you see it, you can't unsee it. It is definitely, the animations are definitely snappier, so it makes the whole thing feel speedier. I never had speed issues with iOS 11 on iPhone 10, obviously, because that's like the newest phone. But I definitely have heard, from people with older devices that iOS 11 was a bit of a pain or feeling sluggish. And I've spoken to some people that have installed iOS 12 public beta on their older devices, and they said it's like having a brand new phone again, which is really, really encouraging. It's one of the big things they're pushing at the keynote, with the fact that they focused so much on the speed and performance, and we already sort of had that heads up that that's what it was going to be about before WWDC. So I'm so glad that's actually come to fruition and that beta 1 is running really well. So how's it been for you?
Yeah, speed-wise, no issues. I mean, again, got the iPhone 10, so haven't had any issues with that. I think the fact that even in the beta, or beta, as you say, even in the beta, that people with old phones are getting speed out of it. Like, this could be the fastest iOS upgrade, like adoption. You know how they always bring out these stats, this many percentage of phones are all running the newest software. I think a lot of it, people, talk to their friends and they go, oh no, I'm not going to upgrade because it's making my phone slower and I don't want my phone to be slower. Mm-hmm. But if they hear, hey, the new one, it's actually made my phone faster, like, so many people are going to jump on that. People that aren't following Apple, that just get the badge and bug and they go, oh, I don't know if I should upgrade. Yeah, I think that's going to really benefit Apple, and I honestly hope that every iOS release is like this from now on, that they do concentrate on trying to make it faster or just as fast on the older phones.
I think between that and the whole battery saga, in terms of the rumors of Apple purposely slowing your phones down so you upgrade, I think this directly helps with that. So I'm hoping that the good word spreads and people are encouraged to update. I also love, and something that I've wanted for a fair while, is they did Do Not Disturb bedtime. So basically your notifications don't show up on the screen. You can still access them, but by default they're not there. So you're not tempted to act upon them if you check out your phone at night. While this bedtime mode's enabled, and it darkens your whole screen as well. So you can still see a bit of your background, but it's got this like real dark overlay, and I really love that because I hate having a bright screen smack you in the face if you have to get up at 2 a.m. in the morning because one of your kids is woken up or something. So yeah, that is a big plus from me. I love the redesigned keyboard, so where the text suggestions and that, like how that looks, it just feels more part of the whole keyboard and it's a bit less cluttered. And the iMessage apps, like the actual row, so because before they were down the bottom, and then when I opened this up to test it out and they were up the top, and at first I was like, oh man, what are they doing there? But it does actually make everything feel more simplified, and in terms of your actual thumb position, it's more easily accessible. So yeah, like I guess at first I was like, oh, it's a little bit distracting, and then once I realized the actual advantages of it being there, I found myself scrolling through the actual iMessage apps a bit more. It's kind of like beforehand you can sort of forget they're there sometimes. So yeah, I think it's a good way to encourage people to use it.
I think it's a really good location, especially since they've done some things like if you want to take a photo and put it in, you hit the normal camera button. But now if you want to just send someone a photo that you've previously taken from your camera roll, the photos button is in that app drawer, along with, animojis and memojis and things like that. So the first 3 or 4 are kind of things that you would use quite often, especially the photos
and like the GIFs.
Yeah,
GIF
things.
Search,
yeah, so those first ones, I think they're in a much better spot. And the fact that the drawer is really, really small until you actually touch on it, and then it enlarges a bit so you can see. I think it's been very well designed.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate it. I love the fact that Face ID automatically reattempts without you having to sort of tilt your phone away and tilt it back or swipe up or anything. That's helped a lot. If I've accidentally pulled out my phone and it's tried to do a Face ID unlock and it's on a bit of an angle, you're just pulling your phone out. It's lit up. And yeah, the fact that by the time I do bring it to my face, it then successfully unlocks without me having to do any extra step. That's really good. And I actually think that overall it's a bit better. I've had the whole lying down with a pillow covering your face thing, which is a classic, Face ID struggles to work because it can't sort of unlock from half your face. I find I only have to tilt my head a little bit to the left or whatever side you're lying on to get it to work. Whereas beforehand, I kind of had to do a full 40 degrees or something to get it to my face lined up with it. So I don't think this is just me, trying to look for improvements. It actually does feel like it is working better. How's it been for you?
Probably just the reattempts, the fact that it does reattempt itself and not wait for you to hit it. It's probably doing it a little bit faster than you would have normally. Like you would have put more effort into your turn before you did it. But I also really like if it does completely fail, because you weren't looking at it properly or whatever, instead of having to hit cancel and try again, you can just swipe up again and it will automatically go straight back to try to do Face ID, which is so much better, because you'd either cancel and then have to Face ID again or just type in your passcode. And so the fact that you can just do a swipe and it goes and reattempts, it's been great. I really want to set Jess up as the second appearance. Alternate appearance. And I was going to get her to do it the other day.
Wow, Lance, you look a lot different tonight.
But I was going to get her to do it, but we were in bed and she's like, I'm not sitting up and rotating my face. So, but I really want to see how it works and program it in. The reports are that it works really well. I'm sick of typing in the passcode on her phone. So I'm keen to get, for when iOS 12 comes out, to get that happening too.
Yeah. Okay, group notifications. So this was working for me straight away, and then it started what I thought was not working. I was like, I've got three messenger notifications here. I didn't have anything else. 3 messenger. I'm like, why are these not grouping together? And then I would send a test from my wife's phone to my phone. I did a couple of those, and I sent myself a message as well. So 2 apps on the go. I was like, they're not grouping. I was like, oh damn, this must be a beta bug. And I'm asking you, and you're like, no, like mine's fine. I asked Nick, no, mine's fine. And I logged feedback bugs and everything. I did screenshots and screen captures and stuff. And then I thought, and then I got a lot of messages from someone once, and it was grouped. So then I finally figured out that it only groups once there's enough notifications for you to have to scroll. So it's not unnecessarily grouping them for you when there's plenty of space to read what's on the screen, which I think is a fantastic behavior for it to have. And once I knew that, I was like, this is the best thing ever. So
yeah, I think you were just so keen to have the groups. The new feature, let me see the groups. But yeah, it totally makes sense.
I love the look of it as well. Just that the classic stacked overlays. Looks really nice. So there's some UI adjustments in news and photos. For the photos one, took me by surprise a bit. Some of the scrolling through in the For You sections through some of your albums and that, going from left to right rather up and down. And news, I think, is so much better with your news sources all stacked in a list, reflects all the other news updates that they showed at WWDC. And I just think that's a lot better. And they've also reduced the options down the bottom, so everything just feels a lot cleaner. Voice memos in iCloud, I love the new look of it. I love the fact there's iCloud support. I've wanted that for ages. I use voice memos a fair bit, particularly if we're doing like music and stuff and you kind of record a little bit of a snippet or an idea. The fact that didn't have iCloud support before and everything else did annoyed me. So that it's all together now, which is great. And the actual portrait mode, for the front-facing camera, the results seem to be improved. The stage lighting, is still hit or miss. But I just think generally in terms of capturing the edges and everything, and beforehand it might kind of blur out things that shouldn't quite be blurred out, or you might end up with some space that didn't have the bokeh effect on it. Whereas it seems to be improved there, which I definitely appreciate that. But before I move on, what other favorites do you have?
I think you've covered most of it. Honestly, the do not disturb at bedtime is definitely one of my favorite features. And I've caught myself, early morning rolling over and looking at my phone, and it's caught me by surprise that the notifications aren't there and it is dark. And a couple of times I've thought to myself, that's kind of annoying because I wanted to see notifications. But then I'm like, no, I shouldn't want to see my notifications. It's 4:00 in the morning. I should go back to sleep. Yeah. So I think after a bit getting used to it, I think it's going to really help. But yeah, that's about it. You've covered everything else, Simon.
Cool. So some changes is the placement of new camera effects. So I love playing around with the memoji in the video and in photos and stuff, mapping it to your head. That's great. But the fact that it's only tied to you starting in the Messages app is a little bit annoying. So if you could just pull out those effects if you open the camera app or whatever, if you go for the camera shortcut, if it's wherever the camera is, if it's available there, that would certainly save the frustration of going out and into a different app. Now I know you pointed out that you liked being able to select an existing image from the Photos iMessage app, but I do like that. But I wish that when you went to take a photo, you could then select a photo from within there. So when you press the camera button, you can take a new photo, but you can't select your existing photos from within there. So I've caught myself that because beforehand I was so used to hitting the camera icon, then choosing an existing photo. Mm-hmm. So if the camera launches like it does, that's great. But if it just had your photos as that little thumbnail in the bottom corner, I think that would save a little bit of frustration. And the quick actions from 3D Touch, they're currently harder to read. I've got the iOS 12 wallpaper, which I really love, but I have noticed, particularly over the red, that I think that the opacity might be a bit too soft or something, and it's actually a bit hard to read the text options on there. So if they just increase that up a bit, then that will help with visibility. Do you have any changes, or you want to get into the bugs part?
No different ones, but I do agree, especially with the placement of those camera effects, because there have been a couple of times where I've wanted to, test something out or show something, or even like record a video or a photo and save it to my camera roll and then post it on social media or something, and I've got to go into an iMessage and pretend I'm going to send it to someone when I'm actually not, which just seems a bit backwards. And I think novice users that don't really know what's going on, when they want to get in and do Memoji or use these effects, they're going to open the camera app and go, where is it? So I think that is definitely a change. Just put it across everything. Why not?
I had a funny story. I was showing everyone at work, and I had some guy walk in, and he's like, "Oh, is that like Snapchat or something?" I felt like backhanding him, being like, "Get out of here."
Snapchat is good, but it does not have as good face detection as that.
It's what he took at face value. So pause for pun. Anyway, okay. No applause there. All right, bugs. So the TV app currently crashes my actual phone.
Oh.
Every time. So it crashes it in the sense that the whole screen goes black and you get a little loading icon, and then it wakes back up after a little bit at the lock screen. So it doesn't restart the phone, but something's definitely going on there. And some of the placement of the labels and stuff like episode ratings and that are misaligned. So I've done feedback for that. Screen time. So I love the fact screen time's there. I love checking it out. But there certainly seems to be either a delay in getting it to appear or just a delay in the actual stats itself. Now, I had an interesting one where I set the app limit and I went over my social media app limit, and then the next morning that app limit was still applied. So what I had to do to fix that was I had to go into settings, go to screen time, get it to actually load today's stats for it then to realize that it was today and to take the app limit off.
Okay, yeah.
So I know you had some issues with the app limit itself.
I had a similar issue where I wanted to, I set an app limit, it told me my time was up, and then it comes up with two options. It says, do you want to, you can just exit the app, or you can ask for 15 more minutes worth of time, or to ignore the limit for the rest of the day. And when I selected 15 minutes more or ignore limit for the rest of the day, it did a little animation and then just did nothing. And it would still lock me out of the app. And it wouldn't. And every time I left the app and go back in, it would give me the same options. None of it would work. And I actually had to go into settings, turn off the app limit in order for it to unlock the social media apps. So it's definitely got some screen time bugs. So I logged that one, and I have a feeling, beta 2, they'll really focus on these screen time ones, because I'm sure a lot of people are discovering these issues because it's a new feature and everyone will be testing it out.
I think you'll find where you find the bugs generally seems to be with the new features, which makes sense. It's something new. Bugs are going to be found, right? So the actual system itself was running great, but yeah, little things like a whole new feature like screen time, the bugs are expected. So I'm expecting improvements there, which is fine. Now the Memoji with the video, I find at least when you first launch it, it can be a bit sluggish, like it's at a slow frame rate. And then also it can be a little bit unnecessarily jittery, particularly if you get towards the edge of like what the camera sees gets towards the edge of the frame. So overall, I mean, it's running generally pretty well, and it's quite impressive. But I think that these little things of the tracking of your face and stuff will improve over the beta revisions. The Measure app, I love the icon. I love the look of the app. Using it is easy, but it's certainly not accurate enough, unfortunately, to really rely on it. I think if you're measuring photo frame sizes and stuff, that's fine because stuff are in set inches and that sort of thing. But when I was actually, specifically wanting to measure an object on the table, things like the shadow that was cast from the light in my house was stuffing around the edge detection and that a bit. So have you had a chance to test this app out?
I have. I used it on the kitchen bench, and it seemed to work well, although, to be honest, I then went looking for a tape measure and couldn't find one. So I don't 100% know how close it was, but it was certainly easy to use. I like that it snapped to the edges, because other AR measurement apps I've seen have not done that. They haven't detected edges and corners and things like that to know that that's where you're trying to measure to. So I definitely think it's got a lot of potential.
When you're measuring closer up, it's definitely far more accurate. Like it did a book edge perfectly. It was just the little things I described before, where the shadow was messing around with the actual other edges on the book and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to improvements there, because I think that's certainly going to be a thing that's going to help the uptake of ARKit. I mean, this Measure app by itself is already a fair bit better than the third-party ones that we got during iOS 11 era. So yeah, it's good that Apple have taken it on. Battery life in general, I think this was expected in the first first few days of running beta. The battery life, you notice that it's not as good, but I think it's just because of all the indexing and everything going on in the background. It seems to have settled down a bit now, so it seems pretty normal. And unfortunately, I had the App Store. I had some App Store loading issues. I had an interesting one where I went to the updates, and it had my I had 2 app updates done. 2 app updates there to do, and then I had the list of recently updated, and all the recently updated ones, instead of saying open, they said update, but in lowercase instead of uppercase. So that was a really weird visual bug, but I managed to fix that with a reset. So any other bugs for you?
Yeah, I was trying to FaceTime with Jess's phone when she was on the way home from work the other day. She's obviously running iOS 11, and it was having a whole lot of connection issues, and she was saying, like, I could see her, no issues, no problem at all, but she was saying that my screen was completely freezing, like, all the time, and we rang each other like 3 or 4 times, and it was just not working, so we gave up. So obviously they've got, just some iOS 11 to iOS 12 with the whole new group FaceTime feature and things causing some issues. When I first installed the beta, it was really strange. I had an entire folder worth of apps, which would normally have like 3 to 4 pages worth of apps in this folder, all of a sudden I noticed that all of those apps were not in that folder and were on the last page of my home screen. But then I looked at the folder and I could see the images of those apps in that folder still. Then I tapped and opened the folder, and then all of a sudden all the apps would disappear. It was an empty folder. There was not a single app in there when you opened it, but when you went out of it, all of the images were there. So it was
it's so bizarre when you shared it to me.
So strange. So I logged that bug and recorded it and everything, but a reboot solved it completely. The folder was gone and all of the apps were still on that last page. So I did have to create the folder again and put all the apps back in, but so far so good from there. And then the only other thing I've noticed is that when I'm doing, because I'm taking a video within the message app in order to, put my emoji on my face or whatever, I can't seem to get the video to rotate in a landscape, because portrait video, nobody likes that. Well, people do. People.
Instagram
shouldn't.
TV is built on that, but
yeah. So I want to take a landscape video, but I turned it sideways. I took the whole thing and then realized it did the whole thing in portrait, which was quite strange. So, and I can't get it to rotate. So I don't know if that's a bug or whether that's Apple.
Did you rotate it afterwards? Like it looked like that you were on the side, and then you can rotate it with when you go to edit a video, just looking through your Photos app, and it opens it up in like a miniature version of iMovie, and you can rotate it there.
I didn't because I think
that's always handy.
Yeah, because it was within iMessage, so I would have had to save it into my camera roll and then go in and edit it and everything. So I just deleted it, and because I was really just testing it out rather than actually intending to send it to someone. So yeah, but that's a good thing to know.
Okay, that is the iOS 12 public beta wrap up. First impressions after having it for a week, bit over a week, I think. And great impressions all round. Expected bugs, but can't wait for the second revision. Straight into the rumor mill, new audio hardware. Now there seems to be several little rumors floating about, and it kind of leads me to think, would they somehow push this in its own little dedicated audio event? I'm not sure. So we have the rumor of some higher end AirPods. So these won't replace the current AirPods, but they're kind of like what have been called an AirPods Pro, which I'm not really sure on that naming. But they're basically, the biggest difference is noise cancellation, which in terms of having noise cancellation AirPods if you had it in the same form factor, that's actually quite a technical feat. And water resistance, but not to the level of swimming, just more water resistance against stuff like rain and sweat. Apparently an increased range as well. I mean, the AirPods, wireless range is quite impressive anyway, but apparently an increased range. I obviously would expect a higher price, and this is supposedly for a 2019 release. Whether they announce it in September, I'm not sure. And just going along with that, apparently there's an update to the actual current AirPods that will have the have Hello Siri with it, powered by a W2 chip. And I think if they released an update to AirPods with a black or like a space grey option, that would be really cool. And supposedly released for this year. So you and I both have AirPods. You're actually currently using them right now. Would any of these features, would they make you upgrade?
Maybe the higher end ones. I don't think I'd replace my current one. Then again, if they did bring out a dark color, I might be tempted by that, because that'd be really great. I do hope that if anything is to be released in 2019, that they don't announce it, because it's obviously too far out.
It's becoming a thing.
It's announced something. I'm still waiting on AirPower.
AirPower. Yep.
Yeah, it's like Apple need to stop doing that. Just, announce it close when it's ready. I understand that they had a lot of hardware leaks, and that was a big issue. So I suppose if they announce it, then they can go and produce it. And if it leaks, it doesn't matter. They've already actually announced it. But it's a little bit frustrating waiting a long time for a product.
Well, looking at those, I'm not that fussed about noise cancellation. The tech itself is great to use on things like planes, and that would be awesome. But the fact that I mainly use my AirPods when I'm out and about walking the dog, I kind of want to hear cars drive by. I want to hear if someone's yelling out at me or something like that.
Mm.
So the content I'm listening to, I can hear perfectly fine. Volume's pretty good. But I always want volume to be louder, but that's from years of listening to heavy music. But it's the lack of noise cancellation with the current AirPods, I find is a good thing. And so, if this AirPods Pro as such were just another option, a higher priced option, and they didn't actually, make it the only model and therefore more expensive, like at least if they have the two to choose from, then people can select what suits them most. So as I said, noise cancellation itself is great, but it's not something that would make me really want to upgrade. If they did have a dark space grey look, like something that matched, say, the edge of the aluminium edge of the iPhone 8, that would look really cool.
Yeah.
I like my white Apple accessories, but that would look really cool.
I would think if they were to do noise cancellation within the AirPods at the current shape or very similar shape, do you think Apple might make it some kind of less of a manual noise cancellation? It's like a digital noise cancellation that you could then turn on or off as to whether you wanted it on. I think that would be fantastic because I like mine currently, but then when I do occasionally jump on a plane or something like that, it would be nice to have noise cancellation, and I don't want to buy another whole set of headphones or some Beats or something like that just for that purpose. So having noise cancellation that could be turned on or off would be fantastic. I would also expect a higher end AirPods to sound better too. That would then, if it had those two features, sounding better, noise cancellation, a little bit more water resistance, I would be tempted.
I'm not sure how much they would do in terms of it sounding better in the current form factor, because there is a rumor of them releasing their own over-ear headphones Beats competitor, which we covered earlier in the year, I think. Anyway, it's the rumor's back again, but not too much information, but just the fact that this rumor still exists and may be announced they're talking either this year or some sort of March event or something. So nothing else to say other than the fact that it's Apple branded. It'll be an option instead of Beats and designed as a Bose and Sennheiser competitor. So I'd love to see it.
I'd love to hear it.
Have much of it. I'd love to hear it. And I'd probably actually end up buying it, even though I was just about to say I have no desire to have over-ear headphones, but I'm sure they'll look good. So there you go.
Yeah, and sound amazing. If anything, like what they can do in small little headphones like the AirPods and HomePod sound, with more space, I really would expect it to sound quite amazing. And on that, rumors of a second generation HomePod,
which is weird to me. I get the idea of another thing under the HomePod banner, but I would most likely expect that to be a cheaper, smaller version, something that can be more competitive, at least financially, to say Google Home. Although I don't think that they would release a product with a speaker sound as tinny as Google Home. But if it was an actual successor to the HomePod this soon, it just seems so bizarre to me, because I always had in my head that HomePod, hardware-wise, would probably stay the same for several years because it's mainly the software updates and the Siri updates that people want, because the hardware itself is really good.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
I haven't heard HomePods too close, just in the Apple Store, to be honest. I've never been to anyone's house that owns one. I do still want one, but just haven't taken that plunge yet. But yeah, I think it would be strange. Everyone is clamoring for Siri updates and software updates. Everyone that I know that owns one says that it sounds incredible, and that's not the thing that needs to be updated on the HomePod. And likely, if they were to bring out a cheaper, smaller version, you would expect that the cheaper, smaller version is going to be for people that don't necessarily want the best music and therefore are buying a HomePod for the smarts. And therefore, we need better smarts. So, all round, I think they really. I honestly think that they shouldn't release new hardware for HomePod, whether it be a smaller one. I think double down on the current model, continue pushing out updates, get some better Siri and better control and HomeKit things and stuff like that, and really push it as this smart speaker that sounds incredible.
I really think the shortcuts is going to go a long way with that, with the smarts factor. Because the funny thing is, in actual use, like really when it comes down to it, in actual use between HomePod and Google Home and everything, with what people most commonly use them for, aside from the multiple timers thing, there isn't actually that much in it. Like people say, okay, yes, Google Home can do this much more, or HomePod struggles with this. And I get that, and I do agree there needs to be improvements with Siri. But when it actually comes down to what I mostly use it for, with the music, it's it's like 95% in terms of like getting what I need it to play, and the sound is great. And then other things like timers and calculations and weather and all that stuff works great. Adding stuff to your notes, creating lists and stuff works pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. But I think at the end of the day, it's sort of, it's a bit too hard to get sort of carried away with comparing stuff, side by side on a sheet.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I do think they do need to nail multi-user. Just have it recognize your voice and
that's a big one.
And sync your own iCloud account and get messages and notes and everything, because they're not cheap devices that, $499 for a speaker for your family is what you generally would want to do, a smart speaker for your family. And if I owned one, I would want my wife to be able to, use it as well, rather than just, this is the speaker, and every time she speaks to it and says play some music, it's automatically going to come from my iCloud account. It's automatically, like, everything's just linked to me, which it's a bit of a security flaw, but
Well, I mean, stuff like the music, it influencing your Apple Music account, you can turn that off, so it just becomes like its own thing. That's a general music player, right? But it's more the stuff like wanting to add stuff to your phone or add stuff to your calendar that's only linked to the one device or the one Apple ID. So yeah, I mean, multiple user is something that Nick and I have talked about for ages in terms of it, something that we expect, something that we want to see. So hopefully. Yeah,
if someone says "Hello Siri" in your household, does it pick up anyone?
It picks up anyone that
says it. Yeah. Because our phones, we train them, and then they only know your voice. So it's definitely possible.
Okay. Well, that wraps up some audio stuff, and really quickly cutting in here is Lance and I's good friend, Buddy Watson, previously from Review Culture, that I would often talk about on Apple sites. He's back and active for a few months on a different podcast called Dash Culture, so definitely check that out. But I told him what this episode, the topics that we're going to be covering, and he had some predictions, loosely. It's more comedy, if anything. So we'll just quickly rattle off a few things that Buddy reckons is coming later this year.
Yeah. He believes that the iPhone 9 will be titled the iPhone 10-9.
Yeah, that's awesome. He thinks in an effort to minimize even more cords and cables, the new AirPods will now feature one bud. So whatever you take from that.
And the iOS 12 will strip back features to mirror the first iOS to appease the retro crowd.
Well, retro is popular. And he thinks finally that the latest ad reveal will show an Apple user talking to an Android, and it won't be able to compute its commands, and it will instruct the user to a series of complicated inputs to get an outcome, and the ad will end with the user saying, "Why do they make Androids so complicated?" as he walks off. So,
buddy.
He's some creative thinking there. But anyway, if you're interested, particularly more in the gaming side of things, Dash Culture is a good podcast to listen to. But iPhone 9 is actually a thing. So we're expecting an iPhone 10 update. We're expecting an iPhone 10 Plus. There's always been this mysterious model of phone that's rumored to come out that sits physically between the two, but has an LCD screen, so it is a cheaper option. And I'm like, when I first heard the rumors of this, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Nick and I were just like, what is this? It just doesn't make any sense. But it is all coming together now to me. So I think, and a lot along with what the rumors are saying, this will be the iPhone 9. This is the reason they named iPhone 10 is because they always knew there was going to be a 9 there. So this will technically be the successor to 8 and 8 Plus. So there won't be two size options anymore. It's just one phone that sits between the two sizes. And basically, this some specs for it that we're expecting is a 6.1-inch LCD screen, a micro bezel, so iPhone X style, but it'll be a bit thicker because they have to do that to allow the shape. Because basically, all your Android phones you're seeing now that have notches and stuff, okay, yeah, they're like, hey, we got a notch, we can do what the iPhone does, but they all have bottom bezels because they can't get the shape if they're not using an OLED screen. So apparently it looks like Apple will be able to pull this off with iPhone 9, but that micro bezel will have to be a bit thicker to allow for it. A single lens camera, which seems a bit of a shame for people that want a phone with the dual lens camera, but they don't want to have to pay for an iPhone 10, but anyway. Aluminium band with glass back, much like your iPhone 8. No 3D touch, which I found, I get it from a pricing perspective, but do you think that they would actually drop 3D touch on a phone?
I really don't think so. There's the base model. What's that one called again? The
SE,
tiny one. So even the cheapest model, I think it does, doesn't it? Yeah, I could understand if the SE didn't.
No, because I thought the SE was the same as the 6S internals, but it didn't have 3D touch. Okay. So it doesn't have 3D touch.
Okay.
That's correct. Okay.
That makes sense. But I don't know, like to have the iPhone 9, that's a model above the 8, it's a successor to the 8, but then take away something like 3D touch. It's the right click of a smartphone. That just seems really strange. I don't predict it, and if it happens, I'll be shocked.
Okay, so pricing-wise, what should we expect? Well, they're saying it should be... So the 8 and 8 Plus in US is $699 and $799. So in Australian, that's $1,079 and $1,229. So my safe bet would be a clean halfway point between the two. So expect an iPhone 9 to be $1,149. Okay, so what's happening with the iPhone 10 this year? Same 5.8-inch OLED screen, same design. I'm expecting just internals upgrade, new chip, improvements with camera, and a price drop apparently. So that would bring the current Australian hefty price tag of $1,579 down to something like $1,399. I base that on the difference between an 8 and 8 Plus being $150. And then the iPhone 10 Plus, which will be new this year, will have a 6.5-inch OLED screen, literally, all the same as the iPhone 10, same size notch, but the screen is physically larger, with the current iPhone 10 price tag of $1,579. So I think this all seems like a good move. Like, if they've got technology like Memoji now and they really want to roll it out to more people, having something like a more affordable iPhone 9 and then a price drop for iPhone 10, I think will go that bit extra way as a way for people being able to actually get this in their hands.
Yeah, it sounds good. One thing I didn't catch is the rumor for the iPhone 9 to not have a home button.
Picture the iPhone 9 to look like an iPhone 10.
So essentially, every iPhone rumored to come out later this year does not have a home button.
Exactly. Yeah. All Face ID, all notches, no home buttons. But the way they get it cheaper is by it being an LCD screen, because that's a big difference in the cost. But then to retain the same type of shape, the actual bezels, micro bezel on the outside has to be a bit thicker because of the whole way the LCD screen tech works with the backlighting versus OLED. So, it's because I think the reason I scoffed at it so much initially is because you were hearing about the limitations of LCD and then the things they can do with OLED, like wrapping the screen around, within the phone, and that's how they pull off the no bezel at the bottom for the iPhone 10. And so when this became the thing, like, oh, they're going to do an LCD version, I was like, how's this possible? So it seems like Apple, the requirement they need in terms of the LCD backlighting will be more sort of contained within a slightly thicker uniform bezel. So
Sounds interesting.
moving on to uniquely Apple real quick. Apple stores have been having all sorts of renovations lately, and we've sort of saved this just for one segment in this episode because there are 4 stores that have received a facelift. To introduce you to the type of thing you can expect with these updated Apple stores is with the unveiling of the Apple University Village in Seattle. I'm going to deliver it with a bit of an Australian style. Okay, so picture scenic imagery and all sorts of things like that. With a modern, warm, contemporary feel that marries nature with architecture. A terrazzo porch featuring sound-dampened wooden ceiling and custom teak chairs for relaxation. Aluminium bands form a frame within the structure, surrounded by Japanese maple trees. Skylights allow natural lighting to come in as you relax with wireless iPhone charging. Sit down and take it all in with a saddle brown leather bench to view the indoor garden.
Could definitely tell you work in the industry.
Looking at the pictures, though, it looks fantastic. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, but the very welcoming, relaxed feel of these new stores just makes, like, the current stores are cool, but in comparison, they seem very claustrophobic. So
yeah, they're really pushing these stores to be somewhere where you go to hang out. And I suppose that makes sense because they're doing a whole lot more information sessions and get to know your phone and all, all that kind of stuff. So, if you're going to spend multiple hours there, I think they're really heading in a really interesting direction.
Yeah. So they also had updated the one in Palo Alto on University Avenue, which is apparently similar to the current one, but they've replaced like Genius Bar with an 8K video wall, and they've got all the leather benches and the potted trees and natural lighting, so that's great. There's one in Cotai Central, which is apparently the second store in Macau, and this one looks really cool because it's actually got a full, this central bamboo grove that reaches the ceiling. It looks really epic. But apparently, to tackle all the lighting coming in, because people were complaining of it getting too warm, within the glass is a 1 mil thick stone slabs. So they're laminated within the glass, and so because they're so thin, they give this awesome like translucent stone look around the whole store. So it looks amazing, and it also helps with the warmth of lighting coming in. And if they rolled something like that out in Australia, I would love to go to it because the pictures just look really epic. And yeah, same 8K video wall. And there's one that's coming in Milan, which this one sounds crazy. So apparently the store sits beneath an amphitheater, and you enter using a staircase through the middle of a fountain.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. So like you can see the picture of the fountain, and you're like, man, this is like some Inspector Gadget level shit. Like
that's incredible.
Yeah, and apparently the waterfall can, like the actual the fountain or waterfall, whatever you want to call it, can be switched off, and the wall behind it becomes a projection screen at night. Yeah, I mean, see, this is the type of thing that you deliver for the customers when you're the world's most successful company. So, yeah,
it's amazing.
I'm not really sure if Western Australia will receive this kind of treatment for a while, or Brisbane. So
no.
Yeah.
The Brisbane one's pretty cool because it's in a really old building. I can't remember what it's called, but it's in an old style building that you walk into and all of a sudden it's all techie. But that they're really good at like working with the architecture that they've got. So it fits Brisbane really well.
Yeah, I like going into the current Apple stores, and they're always laid out nice. But if it's a busy day, it just feels pretty insane sometimes. And because I'm not going there often, because I don't live in Perth currently, so yeah. And that also, like the Perth one, is also built into like an older style building, so that's quite a cool effect. But yeah, they're just staying ahead of the game in terms of the retail experience. So it's good to see all these different improvements and ways they're embracing the actual location that it's in. So I really like it. Okay, lastly, Maps is receiving a complete overhaul. So they're basically rebuilding this from the ground up. They've been collecting their own data over the past 4 years. And they've essentially just decided 4 years ago they wanted to cut out all third-party mapping data, including providers like TomTom, OpenStreetMap. Great part about bypassing third parties, it means any map changes can be done in real time. And so they're doing this with a mixture of machine learning and actual human editors to correct information such as the entrances and actual building numbers. And I don't know if you've seen a picture of the Apple Maps vans, but they look pretty teched up. So apparently they're equipped with a Mac Pro bolted to the floor with a SSD array and then a single USB-C cable running to an iPad with a map capture software. And there's a GPS on the roof with 4 LiDAR arrays and 8 high-res cameras that are capturing GPS data, images, and a 3D point cloud. So picture like the 3D projection thing on your face with Face ID, but on your surroundings as a way to record the physical structure.
Wow.
The SSDs, are then encrypted and then sent to the Apple data center and replaced with new ones. So in saying that, apparently this is all run as like a 2-person team, so a driver and an operator. Do you think that you'd want to be responsible in Australia for driving one of these?
It'd certainly be an interesting job. Yeah. I'm actually blown away by that. The fact that they're, using essentially Face ID tech. I think I remember seeing some, I think it was on, was it Planet of the Apps? Not Planet of the Apps, but it was on, it was on Planet of the Apps, where that guy had this tech where he could use other people's computers to map people's homes and the inside of people based on their cameras and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so just having that kind of database of structures and then being able to use that within other areas of the Apple ecosystem or even, third parties, that's definitely a quite amazing business venture.
So apparently the other ways that they're filling in the gaps is they're collecting anonymous data from people's iPhones. So there's no privacy concern here because basically what they're doing is they're collecting segments of your travel. So there's no way that they can map a complete route to a user. So they'll take out little slivers of so you run from point A to point B and they'll take out little sections in the middle. And then by the time you combine all this sort of data with everyone else's, it gets like it forms a complete picture, right? And apparently it only is recording this while you're using Apple Maps. And it's all encrypted, it's all anonymized. So yeah, it's quite a creative way that they're doing this and also holding Apple's big, stance on privacy. So the expected improvements you can see with maps is better road networks, more information for pedestrians, accurate step-by-step navigation, definitely more visuals like with the trees, grass, buildings, sports grounds and such. And so they're actually rolling out in the iOS 12 beta for San Francisco in the Bay Area first, then expanding to North California. And then they stated rolling out for the entire of the US within a year. So where do you think that would put Australia in terms of a rollout?
Considering how
couple
long
years after that,
considering how long it's taking Apple Pay Cash to come our way, considering Apple Pay is already here, and Apple Pay Cash has been close to a year now, I think, since announcement, and we haven't seen it. And this kind of thing there's a lot of work. Australia is a very big country, so we'll see Sydney first, but yeah, it'll probably be at least a couple of years before we start getting some capital cities.
Do you not have the Apple Pay Cash button in your iMessage?
I don't believe I do.
Yeah, because I've had it. Like I've had Apple Pay Cash on my phone for ages. It doesn't work because I don't have Apple Pay set up, but I somehow just got it.
No, I definitely don't have it.
Yeah, I know it's technically not available, but I somehow have it there.
Well, you should send me some money.
Okay.
Just to test it. Let's give it a whirl, hey?
I'll send you some compensation for all the terrible puns I've bared down on you. So, okay, that wraps the map up. I'm excited to see this. Actually, particularly because I'm going to be in San Francisco in September, so to actually use it there will be great because the actual official launch of iOS 12.2 will be happening probably a week after that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Can't wait to hear your impressions.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and one last little thing to wrap this up. You went and got the Pro Apps bundle, which is a great deal, and one of the apps included is Main Stage. So you can actually tell us how you're using this?
Yeah, so I ended up buying the Pro Apps bundle because my wife wanted to use Main Stage for her keyboard at church. And it included Final Cut Pro, which I've been looking at for a while, which retails for $4.99, and the entire app bundle ended up costing $2.99. So it's a student bundle for education. So you have to be enrolled in some kind of high school or university type thing, which I am. So that was excellent. But Mainstage 3 is quite an incredible application. You boot it up and you download sounds, and then you can import other sounds into it. And what you actually do is, I'm using my MacBook Pro with Touch Bar, and when it's running, I've got a USB-C. I'm running all USB-C. I went and bought all new cables. So if you want USB-C cables, go to JCar, because they've got them for $15 to $20 a pop.
Wow.
USB-C to mini B to micro USB to like the printer cable. They've got everything. It's quite incredible. So and they're working really well. So what it actually...
Thanks for the lead on that one.
Yeah. God, Simon. I quit. No.
A stretch for that one. Okay. And that was the last time that Lance appears on Applesize Podcast. I'd like to thank his contributions.
Anyway, you never cease to amaze me. No, that's okay. I'm struggling to explain this, but essentially, Jess has a really good Roland keyboard. Like it's a proper keyboard. It works normal, but it's also got a MIDI controller in it. So you plug the keyboard into the computer, and then what actually happens is the keyboard doesn't output audio to the computer. It just outputs data, and then tells Mainstage to make certain sounds based on all of the keys and knobs and things that you're pressing.
Wow.
So we've got that, and then we've got another little controller that I run from USB-C, and then another what's called an interface, where that's connected by USB-C as well, which you then plug a normal guitar lead into to output into an amplifier or a direct box or anything like that. So it's quite incredible, because she's able to download patches and things that can make her keyboard make some amazing sounds, and it's almost like being a DJ rather than actually playing keyboard. So it's quite incredible, the things that you can do. And I'll give it a little bit of a plug. We downloaded this thing for Mainstage, and you install it into Mainstage, and it's called Sunday Keys, which is a company called Sunday Sounds makes Sunday Keys, and then you can purchase certain songs. So this is all for church. So you would search up a song that you wanted to play in your church, and download a patch, and so it's got all the sounds already programmed to all of the keys and everything. Buy it for $8 Australian and install it, and off you go. And you've got every sound, and it's got a visual thing on the screen to show this is the area where you play the chorus, and this is the area where you play the verse, and it's really quite incredible. And I've managed to set it up so that Jess can switch from Mainstage output to standard keyboard output on the fly. So
nice.
Yeah, it's a powerful app. There's so many sounds in it, even just standard sounds. Like you go on and go, I want to download all the sounds. 33 gigabytes worth of sounds if you want everything. So we haven't got everything at the moment, and and every time she does sit down and play for a while, I do come over and notice that the MacBook fans are actually wearing up, and it's getting a little bit hot. So that's a little bit concerning, but so far so good. It's quite incredible.
Well, I've learned a bit more about one of Apple's applications. So yeah, it's good to hear you're having such a good hands-on experience, and the inclusion and ease of use, like things with Sunday keys. Yeah, it sounds like it fits quite well into your life. So, yeah.
It's really good.
A good purchase all round. So now I'm waiting for the your epic film clip production or something. Now you've got Final Cut Pro. So
Yeah, definitely. I'm so keen. I haven't even booted it up yet. I haven't had the time, but yeah, I'm really keen to start. I've been using iMovie for quite a while now, and I kind of know all the basics, and I'm ready to have some more powerful features. So I'm really keen to get that happening.
For sure. Well, that brings us to the end of episode 54 of Apple Slice. Apple Slice is a part of Ozcast Network. You can find us and other great podcasts at auscastnetwork.com. I'd love to give a shout out to my good friend Andrew, who was formerly part of AB Film Review, another Ozcast Network podcast. Now, as he has a website called The Curb, and his podcast is called Not a Knife. So he's still carrying on his support and review of things like independent films and Australian films. But he's actually expanded it more into some like social and political issues, as well as helping sort of bring some recognition and a voice to underrepresented groups such as the Indigenous community and LGBTIQ and all that sort of stuff. So if you want something that covers kind of pop culture, but that's different than your flood of other sort of pop culture podcasts, try look up Not a Knife or go to thecurb.com.au. And also, if you love Australia, my good friend Leon at Yeah G'day. It's a great podcast that's both comedic and educational, also part of the Ozcast network. So, yeah, whether you're from Australia or not, you're sure to get a laugh out of it. So look up Yeah G'day. And if you'd like to find Apple Slice, just search for us in your player. But Lance, we are also on social media at what locations?
Instagram, Twitter, on Facebook, and we have the Australian Apple Fans Facebook group.
Booyah! Cool. All right. Join the discussion there. We'd love to hear your feedback on stuff we cover in the episode, as well as other bits of breaking news. So do you have any last thing to add?
Yeah, I bought a drone, and I was... No.
I actually thought you were serious. I'm like, did it fly away?
No drones. No drones for me.
Okay, no drones. Well, thank you, Lance, especially for filling in at the last minute. I've felt your bearded presence for the past hour. So now that you have that in memoji form as well, that's quite cool. And I'll be sure to check in with how iOS 12 is going and all other sorts of things. And we'll see, if things like the iPhone 9 are actually a product come September. So great to have a chat with you. And I'll be sure to catch you another time.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Simon.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.